welcome back to drawing. We are continuing to work on our soft pastel project. So depending on if you are in level 2 or level 3, you are either working on a landscape or an animal. Yesterday we talked about choosing a color scheme if you're in drawing 2 and making a plan for the color. That color is kind of a secondary step, and that applies whether you're in level 2 or in level 3. We are working, if you think back to the eye illustrations that we did, we are going to first work in black and white. So you can see here, I have my photograph and I have made it be black and white. I can do that. I can edit my drawing black and white on my Chromebook as well so that I can just see a black and white version of it. And I'm going to work in either the pencils or the chunks to shade the animal in black and white before we get to the point of adding any color. So areas that are large, I do sort of like working with the chunk. So like the whole back of that head is pretty light. And I can go ahead and just sort of add the lightness. You will notice that as I'm doing this, that I am working in the direction that the fur grows. It's kind of important that we think about fur as a directional element in our drawing. It's a textural element for sure. And this furry board allows me to kind of capitalize on that effect that I can make some textural marks and have that texture kind of stay in my drawing. So you can see I am starting first with some white. I'm not going to do any details. So even though my rabbit has some whiskers and that sort of thing, right now what I'm worried about or working on is simply the big shadows and the big highlights. We will go back and add some finishing details from there. And I can go ahead and like this is definitely how I'm going to work. So I'm gonna just lay in some big sections. Like those are sort of some of the lighter sections. I can do that with the big. I can then come back with my pencil and start to add some finer details and some shading. I can also come back and add a little gray. So you'll notice that both the pencils and the pastels work on the fluffy board. They both have a little bit different effect or a little bit different feeling. So you will end up using both while you work. And you'll also notice that I'm being really careful to get rid of my original like white outline. So I don't want that to be there in my finished drawing. One thing I can do is use my paintbrush, as long as it's clean, to get rid of some of that white from my original drawing. I do not want my drawing to have a white outline. I just want my drawing to be shaded using the right values. So I'm looking back and forth as I work, making sure to try to be as accurate as possible as I go, and also making sure to get rid of, like I said, get rid of that white outline there. I want that to be visible at all later. I am going to work in this manner until, quite frankly, until my drawing feels fairly finished. It will be at that point that we begin adding the color. So you don't want to add the color too fast. And I don't want to add any like finishing details right now. because they do end up kind of getting obliterated when we add the color layer. So this is the next step with our animal drawing. So you want to make sure that you are using the pencils and the pastels in the direction that the fur grows, just so we have that textural effect. So I'm kind of watching for that as I work. And we're working to add all the shadows before we add the color. Okay, so I'm going to just continue to work on this. If I am in drawing 3, I am also working with shadows first. So you can see I have my transfer. I used blue, so I've got some blue that's still left on here. My color, my illustration is in color, or my reference photo is in color, which color, black and white. I still have to look for the values. And so I'm going to just work in black and white to make as many of those shadows kind of work or stand out as I can. Again, I kind of like to rough in value with the chunks and then adjust value with the pencil. So the chunk works a little faster just because it's big, but it doesn't do details super well. So going to kind of combine the two together as I'm working, and kind of go back and forth. Again, I don't want any really finished feeling details because I'm going to add those in as I work with, so like the trunk like texture, not really going to worry about that so much right now, because it will be something that I end up adding a little bit more as we get into a color layer. So I'm more looking at big values, big details, and not getting super bogged down on small details. I am thinking about directions of things though, because this furry board has a texture. If, particularly when I'm using the pencils can kind of wreck the texture of the furry board, and it's not replaceable. And so if I am using the pencil in such a way that when it damages the furry board, because it's kind of a normal part of the process, it is getting mushed in a way that works with my finished drawing, that can really be helpful later. This is the next stage, right? I'm going to work on my drawing black and white until it feels reasonably finished using the black and white charcoal.